You're listening to episode 2 of the Confident Writer podcast with Jane Pike. Today I thought we could chatter about emotional busyness. This has been something which has been front of mind for me, ironically, given the context of this conversation, for the last couple of weeks, and I really feel like it's worthy of more attention because mental clutter, that feeling like you're being pulled in several different directions energetically and emotionally, conversations with the itty-bitty shitty committee that loop around on themselves, all of these have an impact. They have an impact on our emotional and energetic levels. They have an impact on our ability to stay present. They have an impact on our ability to be focused. And all of those things obviously have a direct impact on how we are able to show up for our horses. One of the key ways that emotional busyness or mental clutter manifests is really in tiredness. That feeling of fatigue, that feeling like you can't quite keep up, and often in overwhelm. That's something that I'm having conversations about on a consistent basis. Keeping people out of overwhelm, the feeling of overwhelm, that feeling of not being sure where to invest your energy because it just feels like you're all over the place. I had one of those light bulb moments when I was up feeding the horses a few weeks back. And as I was doing it, I noticed that I had this feeling of busyness that was living inside me. I had this rushed energy that was emanating from every part of me, it felt like. And I stepped back and really thought about the situation. And what I came to was this understanding that regardless of how I felt, that particular activity that I was engaged in at the time was going to take the time that it was going to take. I know that feeding the horses, so preparing the feeds, feeding out, everything involved around that takes me roughly 45 minutes to an hour. Now, whether I choose to do that with a feeling of busyness or whether I choose to be more present within that and cultivate feelings of relaxation and calm is really my choice. Regardless of my energetic internal climate, that activity is going to take 45 minutes to an hour. So really, the sensible thing to do is to ground myself a little bit and to recognize that I have the capacity, I have the choice to feel different in that moment. Every emotion that we experience has its own energetic frequency, has its own emotional blueprint, essentially. And the more accustomed we become to experiencing that emotion, the more adaptable or attuned we get to that frequency. If we become so familiar with that emotion that we become attuned to its energetic frequency, we essentially start to reset our own internal thermostat and a new equilibrium is formed. What that means is, if I cultivate busyness as an emotion, or if I cultivate anxiety as an emotion, or if I cultivate one of the more positive, in inverted commas, emotions such as confidence or bravery, I'm also becoming more resonant with the energetic frequency that those emotions produce. As a consequence, I'm constantly resetting my equilibrium or homeostasis point to be in alignment with that emotion. What this means is, if we are in a state of chronic busyness, or we're in a state of chronic anxiety, we come to recognize that as our new normal. That becomes our normal modus operandi. I know I've had the experience of being around someone who was quite manic, quite rushed, and feeling like they had to run from one place to the other, and that feeling of an adrenalized energy is contagious. It's like you absorb that frequency off them like osmosis, and you can even end up feeling quite unsettled yourself. That is the experience I believe our horses have when they come into contact with us, when we're operating in that space where we're consistently busy or anxious or unsettled to the point where our internal thermostat has adjusted itself to recognize that as our normal mode of operating. The other impact that emotional busyness has is on our working memory, and that directly impacts our ability to focus at any one time. Working memory is our general capacity horsepower. It's essentially what determines what we need to have front of mind to perform a particular task, but it also determines what we need to block out. So it's in charge of both of those things. The thing with working memory as well is that it's influenced by both internal and external factors. So that means if you're having a writing lesson or you have someone on the ground that's talking to you or giving you instruction of some sort, the verbal information that you're receiving and integrating from the outside takes up some of your working memory bandwidth. On the flip side of that, on an internal level, conversations that you're having with yourself, as well as any anxieties, doubts, worries, or rumination, they are all competing for the same working memory space. Let's break this down with an example. Let's say that you have 10 points of working memory available to you at any one time. To focus with the degree of intention and concentration that would be necessary for you to do what you want to do with your horse to a level that would satisfy you, let's say that you have to use 7 points of that working memory that's available. In the case of emotional busyness, so that could look like pre-existing brain clutter, that could be you having a conversation with the itty-bitty shitty committee that's telling you what is and isn't possible, all of that stuff might be taking a standard 5 points up of your working memory hard drive. Now, this is a really simplistic example, and maths is not my strong point, but I can see that if I need 7 points of working memory to do the task at hand to a level that satisfies me, I have 10 points available, and 5 of those points are already taken up with 5 points worth of mental clutter. I am simply not going to have the mental brain space or power that I need to actually do the job in front of me to the best of my ability. So this is really, really important. This is also why it is really hard for us to receive instruction or get the best out of ourselves in pressurized situations if we are simultaneously dealing with mental chatter that's getting in the way. That stuff clogs up our capacity to receive incoming information. It's as simple as that. I've actually put a new pathway together recently for Joyride, my membership program, that deals specifically with this because working memory and the ramification that it has on our ability to focus on the task at hand, to perform under pressure, in competition and in lesson environments is really key to you being able to not only get the best out of yourself, but to be fully available to what it is that your horse needs as well. If we don't have enough working memory available, we just block stuff out. We simply can't take it in. So we block it out or we delete the excess information simply because we don't have the capacity to process it. This is actually really interesting information and knowledge to have on board from a coaching perspective or even a parental perspective as well. If someone has a lot going on internally, they are not going to be 100% available to take on what it is that you might be telling them. You may feel like you've repeated the same information 100 times over and it's still not being taken on board. This could be one of the reasons why. It's literally a case of there not being enough space to take on more information from the outside. So, if you're in the place where your emotional or mental bandwidth is feeling a little under the pump, what is it that we can do about it? One of the key things to think of is you're always wanting to focus on more of what you want rather than what you're trying to move away from. What that means is instead of thinking, I don't want to feel busy, or I want to feel less rushed, or I don't want to feel anxious, think about the things that you're actually wanting to feel. That might be more calm, more relaxed, more peaceful, more focused. And then think about how you can start to introduce that as an active practice in your day. One of the things that has really made a huge change to my writing and my life is to think about the qualities that I want to emulate as active practices. We don't do calm just once. We don't do confidence just once. We actually need to wake up in the morning and make the decision to feel confident or to practice confidence in our day. We need to practice relaxation. We need to practice focus. And those things can then become active components in how we're navigating not only our writing, but also our life. Ask yourself then, what is it that I want to feel more of? And how can I introduce more of that into my day? How can I practice that? You might need to recommit to that process many, many times over before it becomes something that feels more natural or that you click into as a matter of course. Have some fun with this over the next few days. Become mindful of the quality of feeling that you're carrying from moment to moment. Make a conscious decision what energetic frequency you want to be operating at and adjust things accordingly. That wraps up episode 2 of the Confident Writer podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you're keen to learn more about me or find out how we can work together, jump on my website, confidentwriter.online, and check out Joyride, the Confident Writer membership program. It's totally my favorite place to hang out. It's all about giving you the skills to really get in charge of your thoughts, master your mindset, and process your emotions so you can get out there and do what you love together with your horse. Looking forward to chatting with you in the next episode. Have a fabulous day. If you enjoyed this, I'd be super appreciative if you shared the love. Feel free to share this far and wide. Any comments and feedback is totally welcome, and you're always welcome to email me also, jane@confidentwriter.online. Your comments and feedback are always appreciated. Looking forward to talking again with you in the next episode.